Hi, everybody. I am Nick Boddick, and this is going to be the inaugural episode of Fright Fight with myself and Travis Brown. I just wanted to say that we ran into some logistical problems with the platform that we typically use for podcasts, and we had to make a very fast, very unprepared switch over to a different platform to record this episode. And just know that in the future, things will be cleaner and more organized, and the camera won't be so kind of back and forth the whole time. So, but enjoy. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Fright Fight. Just got the first intro we've ever done correct. I am Nick Boddick. The shit. Nope, fucked it up. Spoke too soon, dude. Holy shit, I'm the worst. All right.
Oh, man.
So, Fright Fight, for those of you who don't know, which is everybody because no one has ever heard of this besides this gentleman and I before, is where we each defend a horror property against the other. So, it'll be easier to see once we get into it. But I am one of your iconic hosts. I am Nick Boddick, and I am Nick Boddick across all social medias, and I am here with this guy.
So I am Travis Brown, and you can find all of my stuff on travisbrownwriting.com. It kind of links to everything. Very nice, very convenient. I think I've got Reddit and Twitter on there. I don't have an OnlyFans yet, but I'm waiting to see how desperate I get.
It's
So
worth it. Trust me.
that's, but yes, I'm excited for the first ever Fright Fight.
Yeah, dude. So today we are doing arguably two of the biggest horror movies of the last decade. Well, one of them is undeservedly so. We are doing Hereditary versus Midsommar, both from writer-director? I think writer-director Ari Aster. Um,
Mm-hmm.
all right. So if you don't mind, I'll kick us off here.
Oh, please do. I did want to point out though in my research for this, I looked into Ari Aster. Yes, you're right. He's a writer, director, and producer. He's also only 36 years old, I think.
As
He
if I wasn't already feeling bad enough about
I know he
myself.
was he was born in 1986. For reference, I was born in 1988, and I do not have nearly as much of an impact on the horror world as Ari Aster. So I've got 2 years. I got 2 years.
I got three. So,
Mm.
oh, what a dick. No, dude, like, okay, so let me preface this by saying I do not think Ari Aster has made a bad film yet. I think I think one day he is going to make what I consider to be one of the best horror movies of all time. I'm
Mm.
freezing. I need to put a hoodie on. So I think that I think he's a master of his craft. Like objectively, he knows how to build tension. Jesus Christ, dude. He knows how to the guy knows how to pull a performance out of an actor like nobody's business.
Mm.
Tony Collette in Hereditary, uh Alex Wolff in Jesus, Hereditary
Also
again.
Hereditary. It sounds like you're defending my job for
I
me.
know, right?
Also,
Damn it.
to be fair to Ari, Toni Collette could deliver an Oscar worthy performance just like reading the phone book. Like
For
she,
sure,
her
dude.
and
Like,
Francis, was it McDermott, McDonald,
yep, McDermott.
through the roof.
Yeah, dude. Um, the best actress in the world to me. Just side note, Margot Martindale. If you've never heard of her, she's unbelievable. She's on like Justified. You've seen her in probably a million things, and just wouldn't even like. She's oh, it's that lady. Yeah,
Oh,
but
okay. Yeah, she
yeah.
looks very familiar. I looked her up. Oh, she's in Cocaine Bear now.
Oh, nice. Another reason for me to see that. Okay, but so as I was saying, the guy, yeah, he knows how to work with a composer to score his films. Like he knows what he's doing. I think the one area that he kind of falls short in, specifically with Hereditary, was the writing. And that
Mm.
is not to say that the writing was bad, because it wasn't. Like, man, I really sound like I haven't said a negative thing about Hereditary yet.
Because
And
you
like
can't.
I
You can't.
really can't. Like, okay, let me explain my experience with Hereditary to you. It came out on my birthday in what 2018, whatever year it came out. It came out
Mm.
on my birthday. I was so hyped because, all the trailers, all the TV spots, all the advertisements were
this is the scariest movie since The Exorcist, and just all this, fanfare for apparently the scariest movie ever.
Mhm.
I went into it and like I kept waiting for it to get scary, I guess. Like, and like there was a couple creepy parts. What really didn't work for me in Hereditary was the third act.
Mhm.
Like they the first the first two acts, the first two-thirds of the movie, as a family drama, flawless. Absolutely flawless. Like I mean, it was a clinic on like grief and depression and loss, and there's arguably no better depiction of it on film, in my opinion. But then, like with the third act, you get into it, and it's just, oh, okay, it was all about summoning a demon, and now it's a possession movie. And like it's an ending I've seen a million times, like
Mhm.
or like a movie I've seen a million times. And I feel like it was just too stark of a contrast. Whereas Midsommar, the tone there and the through line of the movie was like breakups and uh self-worth and also loss.
Mhm.
And that stuck through the whole time. And like I don't know, man, like speaking of performances, Florence Pugh,
Ugh.
we got to give it up for her. I
I
mean,
mean, she almost saved what was it? Don't Worry, Darling. She couldn't quite do it, but her
yeah,
back must hurt from carrying that entire movie.
for real, dude. I mean, she's Yelena Belova, dude, the new Black Widow. I
Yep.
hope. I hope. Can't wait for Thunderbolts. Um, and like, yeah, dude, for Hereditary, it all fell apart for me once I realized that like, yeah, I don't know that I don't know what I would have done differently with it
Mhm.
without like rewriting the whole thing from the beginning. And even if I did, it wouldn't be as good as what Ari Aster did eventually. What he did with it, but I don't know, man. It just does not. It couldn't hold the weight on its two legs.
And I
And
think that that's a very common complaint. I would agree that the third act out of them is definitely, I don't know if I'd say the weakest. It's the least tonally consistent,
yeah,
which is probably part of the point. Like you have this really intense, tragic family drama with these supernatural overtones, and then the last third of the movie is just like, okay, there's that. Also spoilers, I guess if anyone watches this and they
yeah,
haven't seen it,
for sure.
gonna have to. But I thought there were some really creepy moments in there, and it was just a very good horror movie. But yeah, it was hard to match the first two-thirds in terms of just like I was stuck to the screen. Everything about it, everything about how the family was kind of like falling apart, and just the tension. And I think my favorite scene, probably in any movie in 2018, was Toni Collette's character after Charlie's death and the discovery of her headless body in the car in the garage. And it's just a tight shot of Alex Wolff's character, who was so high that he was hoping it was
Yeah,
a nightmare. And Toni Collette just starts wailing, and they should have just thrown Oscars at her just for that scene. It was so good, and the shot just on Alex in the way that all these different you see him go through the cycle of it was real, it was my fault, the guilt is too much for anyone to humanly bear, and just anguish. Like that entire 5 minute block was just like if you look up anguish in the dictionary.
yeah, dude. And I will agree, like, it's that was a phenomenal scene.
Yeah.
And it is there may be no bigger like snub in Oscars history than Toni Collette not getting a single nod for Hereditary.
Yeah.
It
Well,
was
the Academy hates horror movies. They
for
really
sure,
do.
for sure,
Yeah.
yeah. And like I think the biggest snub ever, another side note, which I'll admit we will have a lot of on this show.
A lot of side notes.
Zodiac. Two,
Oh,
2007 Zodiac, David Fincher. Not a single nomination across
really?
the board. Yeah, not one.
Jake Gyllenhaal, Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, dude.
It's a great movie, and that scene with Jake going into the guy's
The
basement.
Basement. Oh my God, dude.
Yeah.
That's another masterclass in tension, dude. Like, you don't really know if there's actually any danger or not, but
Mhm.
yeah, dude.
But that actually goes back to I think my supporting argument for why Hereditary is overall stronger, even though there's some kind of swerves at the end. I can't think of parts of Midsommar that had that level of just like human experience. There was the opening with her sister committing suicide was one of those that was close. And then there's the first scene, I guess, where they were jumping off the cliff. But to me, the entire thing was a fairy tale, which is great. I love dark fairy tales, and I think that it was excellently done for what it was. But if Hereditary is like 2/3 the most tense family gothic tragedy ever, 1/3 still a strong possession movie, Midsummer to me was just like, this is a dark fairy tale. It's going to keep ramping up. Things are going to get more and more bizarre. It's going to feel a little bit like an acid trip, which sure was great. But by the end of it, I didn't feel surprised by anything. Like, no matter how horrific it was towards the end, there weren't any changes in expectations. It's just a escalation, which at least with Hereditary, escalation. Oh my God, it can't get any worse. And then swerve into something a little different. So to me, it's a
It's
superior horror
fair.
movie and just a better designed movie, even if Midsummer might be more rewatchable.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. That's God damn it, that's a good
And
argument.
you got to
Okay.
think too, like, besides, so everyone in Hereditary, I think, was amazing. Every actor, Alex and Tony, of course, but also, was it Gabriel Bryce or whoever plays the dad,
Mhm.
was subtle, but I really liked it. And then one of my favorite scenes was when he was trying to confront her and be like, this is crazy. This is nuts. He throws the book on the fire and he bursts
That's
into
cool.
flames.
Yep.
So memorable, so amazing. Other than Florence in Midsummer, were any of the other characters standouts? And she's amazing, but there's only so much that she can do. Whereas Hereditary, the whole cast is at 11.
That is true, but I would counter with the fact that Hereditary, while mainly being, I guess, I don't even know if I'd say it's mainly about Tony Collette because but it's the whole family
Yeah,
and it's the dynamic between the whole family. So it really kind of commands that they are all, giving their all. Not to say anybody in Midsummer didn't give it their all, but Midsummer, Danny is the main character,
yeah, yeah.
and everyone around her it's all in relation to her, whereas all the characters in Hereditary are all, I guess, much more intertwined, and they are all as a unit the main character.
To a
So
degree, I do feel that there's some more. I think like the husband is more of a side character, but he's just played and written so well that he
that's
really
yeah,
steals a lot of the screen time. And I think that could have happened with Danny's friends and her boyfriend in particular. But I don't know if it was an issue with the writing, if it was just a little underacted because I think they were newer, younger actors. Of course, so was Florence at the time, but she's just like a generational talent. Which
right.
also, not to shit on them, like that's not really fair. If you put any normal good actor next to like Daniel Day-Lewis, he's gonna
Right. It's gonna
act around
shine.
them.
Yeah.
But I do think Hereditary was just everyone was fully hitting and did so well, and just from a horror and storytelling standpoint, it was so well crafted. And then with Midsummer, the two main things I always think of: scary fairy tale, Florence Pugh's awesome, and that was really my takeaway. And so I don't think that Midsummer will have as much of an impact on the cultural zeitgeist as Hereditary will 10, 20, 50 years in the future.
Okay. Another good argument. And I actually would agree. I think that Hereditary, it came out at a time when there weren't as many of there's a word for it. I don't know, I guess an art horror film, I guess
Mm.
you call it. Elevated horror is the term they use, but I don't really like that
I
term.
don't like that either.
Like, yeah, but there weren't many of those, and so it came at a time when it really stood out. And I feel like if they would have switched release orders, like if Aster would have made Midsummer first, I
Hmm.
think it would have had the same kind of impact. But I think by the time Midsummer came out, Hereditary kind of softened the blow that Midsummer otherwise would have had. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
which is,
And
yeah, makes sense. Also, it's A24 as a studio has been doing
forget about it.
insane things like elevated horror. If anyone earned that, they did. And you have to keep in mind, Hereditary is an A24 film before A24 was really
Hmm.
way out there mainstream. It's also the director's first feature film. I didn't realize that. Prior to this, he'd only made
Yeah,
short films.
shorts, dude. Something about the Johnsons, dude. Have you ever seen that?
I haven't seen that one. No.
Dude, it's
Hmm.
fucking crazy, dude. Like, it's easily the most uncomfortable short film I have ever seen, and I've seen a lot of them. And it's, I mean, I don't even want to, like, if we ever monetize this, I wouldn't be able to tell you what it's about.
Wait,
But
I have not seen this, but I've heard about it because I watched someone on YouTube who was talking about Ari Aster, and they point to this film as just like the most fucked up short
yeah,
film.
dude.
And the fact that this is what got him a mainstream Hollywood connection to Hereditary gives me so much faith in the ability for people to make it in terms of just pure creativity and talent, because
Yeah.
there's nothing about that short film that is appealing to any mainstream audience. No Hollywood producer is going to look at that and be like, okay, we've got our next big franchise. We're going to have Universal, amusement
Yeah,
park
dude.
rides. But someone at A24 is like, this guy's fucking sick, but in the best way. Let's give him a budget.
Yeah, for sure. That's, yeah, absolutely. And yeah, that's really true, man. Like, that's not the kind of thing not the kind of short film you'd like with David F. Sandberg and Lights Out.
Oh yeah,
That
yeah.
can't that the short film of Lights Out was the launch pad for the feature. Something about the Johnsons is not a normal launching pad, dude. Like, it's so fucked up, dude. And like, I mean, like you, I'm sure I'm so desensitized to like horror shit and like
Yeah.
things that are disturbing, and like it does nothing to me anymore. Like, but this is one, like, I've thought about it so much, dude. Like, it's, oh
But it,
god.
it panned out so well because, not to knock the director of Lights Out, I don't know his name. I really like that short film, but it's a very straightforward, well done, well crafted, but it could have just stayed a short film. The actual feature film I thought was pretty underwhelming.
As Lights
And
Out, you mean?
as Lights Out, yeah.
Yeah.
I really it wasn't anything new. And I just don't think that there was room to expand that. So when you see something that appeals to the mainstream, that doesn't always mean that it's going to translate well with a bigger budget. But then you see something that's fucking gonzo and nuts, like something out of the Johnsons, and they're like, the person who came up with that idea can come up with this other just
Yeah.
kaleidoscope of other properties.
Yeah, for sure.
That is very cool. It makes me hope that one day I'll put some weird, insane shit on No Sleep, and where everything else has failed to get attention, that's going to be the one that's going to get me a call and be like, "Here's a bucket full of money. Here's your
I don't
Netflix."
doubt it, dude. Like, your ideas are next level. Like, it'll for sure happen for you. Like, if of all of us, no sleep, like, people, it's, I feel like it's gonna happen for you. Like, you
I don't
just
know.
got it
It's
going
been
on with
popping off.
that.
There was a couple that came up. I think someone got an agent last week, and
Mm-hmm.
they're all well deserved. There's so much talent on No Sleep.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely one of those things where it's just like, just sort by top of all time, go down a couple, and then find mine, and just send me that email.
Right. Yeah, I really wonder how they go about that. Because it can't just be them sitting and sorting through hot and new.
No,
Like, uh,
I don't know. They might have like people reading it. I think that they look for specific. From what I've talked to friends who've actually gotten, because I think we've got a couple mutuals that have
mhm,
gotten offers or had options.
yeah.
Where with horror, a lot of it's just like, will the idea translate to a full length feature? So they like series more than standalones.
Yep.
What's the budget going to look like? Are there a lot of crazy supernatural effects described in there, or is it more of a subtle, like the first two thirds of Hereditary, sort of creepy family drama? So that kind of stuff seems to go really well. And then I guess they're just trends that they're like, this is what we think is going to be big. The story's similar to that. Let's get it in the pipeline. So I don't
Yeah.
know, but also none of the stuff that's gotten picked up from No Sleep has really been produced yet.
No, not at all.
Yeah, to the best of my knowledge. So I don't know if it's all stuck in development hell, or if like next year it's going to be like
Yeah, just a
banger after
flood
banger.
of, yeah,
Yeah,
right. Yeah, I think the closest thing would be Jack's left right game.
yeah.
Because
Which
I got the podcast, and I
was
think
that
it's,
Q code? I think Baraska got
yeah,
a Q code too.
yeah, they did. It was phenomenal.
Oh,
Um, and I think Jack sold that to Amazon too, but I mean, again, I have no idea what the status is. But anyways, so
yeah.
back to
Sorry.
back to our argument. So, I also think, as with any debate over two pieces of media, there is the human element in terms of just like taste. And this is where it kind of, again, man, dude, I did not set myself up well for this. Like, cults are my favorite subgenre of horror.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even close. Like,
Yeah.
I could watch movies about like The
Rosemary's
Void,
Baby.
dude,
You know,
Rosemary's Baby, The Void, uh Devil's Due, for as shitty of a movie as that was, Borderlands. But I could name so many movies about cults. But Jugface, I mean,
I haven't seen. I saw The Void, and The Void was fantastic. I really like that one a lot.
and
It
man,
gave me very like SCP Lovecraftian,
uh-huh.
degrees there.
We're gonna have to do Lovecraftian or cosmic horror movies against each other.
Oh, I'm already dibsing Event Horizon. So I count
Fuck.
that one. Yeah,
Ah, you dick. And you called dibs, and I can't break dibs. I'm not an animal.
But
Oh
yeah, no,
man.
but going back because we went off again. But yes, I get what you mean. And it's funny because I'm the opposite way, is that with a lot of what I write for horror and consume, again, there's twisted, grim fairy tale things like Midsummer. I can't. I always want to say Midsummer. And I'm like, it doesn't sound like I'm pronouncing correctly. It's like
Yeah.
Midsummer. Uh, that is what appeals to me on paper. But I felt like Hereditary just came in swinging so much better. And again with taste, there's just so many different elements to it because it's the visuals, it's the writing. One thing I would give Midsummer is that I think the visuals are a lot stronger, and
Yeah, I was
that
about
might
to
just
get to
be
that.
that might just be Aster kind of finding his footing as a director. But it's some beautiful, gorgeous, terrifying, like the body's falling off the cliff,
Hmm.
and that wet just so much better and stronger than Hereditary, which I think was more conventionally shot with a few different moments that were super creative, like the miniature house. I think there's some scenes where like
Yeah.
look at that room and then pan out and you'd be like the full room. So he's good. Everything he does, writing, directing, the visuals, all strong. But I think he's getting better as he goes. I'm excited to see the new movie he's got with Joaquin
Joaquin
Phoenix.
Phoenix, Bo, or Bo is something is Bo.
I think Bo is now I'm gonna look.
Bo is alive? No.
It is. Oh, Bo is afraid.
Bo is afraid. That's what
Bo
it
is
is. Yeah.
afraid.
Oh, it sounds. It's another. They just didn't they describe it as like a dark fairy tale, I think. I was
I
reading
would
something about it, but I would
decade.
bet.
I just brought it up now. Decade spanning surrealist horror film, which is basically like everything he does. And I think
Yeah.
that Joaquin Phoenix is playing himself at different ages. Speaking again of a generational talent, man, he is so amazing. And I know Joker gets overrated a lot, but I think that the work he did in that was
Oh, dude.
phenomenal. And I'm excited to see him in anything that he wants to be in. And
Same.
actually, my
Same here.
favorite role of his was when he was the villain in Gladiator.
Oh, dude, hell yeah. He was phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
I think he got nominated for that too, which again, it doesn't matter. I don't know why I keep bringing up nominations. The Oscars are bullshit.
Oscars are bullshit. That can be the entire theme of one of our episodes. It's just the Oscars are bullshit.
Yeah, dude. Like, I don't even want to get into it right now. We will, but not right now.
You know, it would be fun though. Sorry to keep taking us off, but
No, no, no.
if you had like a Twitch, and we did just a live reaction to the Oscars, just shit on how bad they're gonna do because I know they're gonna be really rough this year.
Dude, I'm down to do that
And if Banshees doesn't win Best Picture, I'm gonna riot.
for real.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, it's not going to.
No, no.
Okay, I know. We'll get into that
Okay.
later.
Good.
But no, we should do that. We got to remember that. So yeah, I was about to get into imagery. Uh, so I think it is infinitely harder to make horror set during the day scary
Mm.
in terms of, visual storytelling. Um, for obvious reasons. I mean, it's not. A lot of directors have done it. It's not like Ari Aster's the first to make a creepy scene set during the day, or in a well lit room. But like, I think the imagery works so well contrasted with the storytelling and how all this crazy fucked up shit is happening, and it's happening under a beautiful blue sky and a bright sun. And whereas, like you said, yeah, Hereditary is more traditional, and I feel it has it going for it that it's all set in the dark for the most part. Like,
Mm.
and it's not really a knock, because most horror is, because night is scarier. And like, the one shot that really unsettled me in Hereditary was it's I think it's like right at the beginning of the movie, or not right, not I'm mixing up the movies now. It was when Tony Collette is in the attic and she turns off the light and she thinks she sees her grandma, or excuse me, her mom standing there in the corner, and you just barely can make out that there is in fact this woman standing there. That fucked
Yep.
me up. That fucked me up, dude. Like, I'll give it to it. That scared the shit out of me, and I think about that more than I care to admit. But with Midsummer, it was like every shot of that movie, and maybe like I could be biased right now because I just watched the movie again last night. But I feel like even before last night, there were a lot more specific shots in Midsummer that I remember.
Hmm.
Like you mentioned, the jumping from the cliff,
Hmm.
um,
The bear suit,
the bear suit,
the
the
like
blood eagle.
yep, yep, the almost the simulated labor kind of thing with Florence, and
Yep.
they're all breathing with her, which
Yeah.
so I'll give you that one. I'm gonna say that Midsummer for sure manages to do something that's very rare in horror, which is daylight becomes so much scarier, and it's almost this surrealist kind of washed out, overly bright.
Mhm.
It actually makes me think of Uncanny Valley because it is so close to a beautiful summer day, but slight things seem
Just
off.
yeah.
I don't know if he played with the contrast or if it was just super intentionally bright, but it is unnerving in a lot of ways, and
Yeah.
it's visually something where it drags you along. It's very hard to look away from the screen. And I want to give him credit too that that scene with the attic and the light switch
Mhm.
was such a subtle but powerful jump scare, and he rarely uses jump scares. And
Right.
I've seen so many horror movies where it's just like spooky thing pops out at you, and that's where they draw so much of the tension from. But he almost seems like above that,
Mhm.
hashtag elevated horror, where you might get one or two jump scares in a movie, but they're usually the that kind of thing where there's something in the background when the camera's focused on the foreground that changes and like makes you snap to it, but it's not a spooky demon face just jumping out at you.
Right. Yeah, I see me, I love a good jump scare, and
If used carefully, it's one of those
yeah.
things where it's just like it's like a cheeseburger. You can have one every once in a while, but if you eat like 12 a day, you're gonna have a heart attack.
Okay, well, I don't know who you think you are coming at cheeseburgers like that, but I'll just let that go for the moment. Uh, no, I get what you're saying. Yeah, no, it has to be done well because, especially if you're talking in terms of a single movie, you learn as you watch a movie, even a 90-minute movie, you learn what to expect. And if
Mhm.
you're doing too much of the same thing, then yeah, it loses all of its impact by the end, by the middle of the movie, even. But um, very quick side note, best jump scare I've ever seen in a movie doesn't even come in a horror movie, Mulholland Drive by David Lynch. It's outstanding.
That's almost a horror movie because David Lynch
Right.
just like whenever he's in the room, there's crackling energy and like
Uh-huh.
spooky shit. Great movie though. So
Yeah.
is that the behind the diner with
Yep,
the
that's the
yeah,
one.
yeah. Oh my god.
It's just it lingers so long.
Hmm.
Like you keep waiting and waiting and waiting and like and then finally and yeah, dude, it gets me every time, even though I know what's happening, like know what's coming. But so yeah, in terms of the ending of talking about the endings of the movies,
Hmm.
the resolution, uh, as I mentioned, it's my opinion that Hereditary falls apart in the third act. Excuse me. And Midsummer, I feel like, comes to a very satisfying conclusion. The conclusion of Midsummer, I thought was much more, I guess, well executed than Hereditary was. And that's ignoring all the, ignoring the issues that I have with just where the story went with Hereditary. I think it's a more I think Midsummer has a more satisfying ending in terms of where the characters end up, uh, as far as it being a complete, well told story.
Hmm.
And because Danny, Florence Pugh, you've seen her go through all these different emotions throughout the movie, and then that last shot of Midsummer is just, she's screaming because Christian is fucking dying,
Mhm.
and she's sad, but then you just see a little smirk on her face grow, and it's just like, I don't know. That for me was such a weird, like unique kind of gut punch
Mhm.
because that's not a normal reaction you would have. Like if I saw one of my exes burning to death, like I mean,
Yeah.
like I don't have any kind of like I don't have hatred for them. I don't. They're irrelevant to my life, but I would still be like, oh my fucking god, dude. So like it was a gut punch for me anyway to see like shit like she just broke up with this guy like 5 minutes ago. He's
Mhm.
burning and she is smiling now. No, like that. I don't know. That just did something for me. That just really worked for me.
A lot of it too. I still think Hereditary. So I'm gonna vote for Hereditary as just the stronger movie and story overall, but by no means is Midsummer not amazing in its own right. I think you might need to put a poll up at some point whenever this goes and let people vote for it. So I
Yeah.
agree with you. I think Midsummer as a singular package is a lot more efficient, thematically sound. It going from point A to point B, it's a package. It's a whole thing that works together all the time. Hereditary, I think, has a little bit of friction and dissonance internally, but I still think that the strengths of Hereditary, the acting, the writing, just the realistic family tension and the tragic thread that sort of sews through the entire piece, overall makes it a stronger package, especially with it again being his first film. I think it's going to make a larger impact on the culture of horror movies, and more directors are going to emulate that versus Midsummer. Because Midsummer, to me, not just being that fairy tale, it's also sort of like a descent into madness and almost the acceptance of madness to avoid grief, responsibility, all these other things. So it ends on. It makes me think a little bit of the movie Brazil,
Oh yeah,
which I
dude.
don't know if you've seen that one,
Oh,
but
I
it's
have.
it's a twisted, like very mental movie where you're diving into the characters, darkest thoughts and motivations, and at the end of it, uh, they're just sort of broken. And I think that
Yeah.
that is one of the things that makes it so scary is that, like you said, her reaction to everything that's happened is so unnatural and alien, but it makes sense given the sum of the parts of the movie put together, like the entire experience for her and her friends is just them steadily the cult breaking down what
Yeah.
seems normal and right and socially acceptable until at the end of it she's just kind of shattered, but she finds, I guess, a bit of relief in that. Not just ignorance being bliss, but complete and absolute the loss of your mind in a way,
Yeah.
which is scary. It ends. It's one of those tropes modernized where it would sort of end with the character getting like a lobotomy or something, or they just
Hmm.
snap in the mental asylum, or even like 1984, where it's basically tortured into being crazy and then being happy that he's being oppressed. So
Yeah.
all those things, there's so many different themes that you can pull from each of them, and Midsummer has a lot of those strengths. I just feel as a horror story, Hereditary again too is so much more relatable. Like it is about its main theme isn't just the relief in the loss of sanity. It is the kinds of baggage and pain and anguish that we carry with us from previous generations, and how that gets put from parents onto children onto grandchildren. It kind of continues on because like Tony Collette, she had this awful time with her brother and with her mom. She didn't even realize she was in this cult, but all of that pain and violence and sadness gets put onto her, and then despite her best efforts, some of it comes out towards her kids. And I think it's something that pretty much anyone in any family can look at and be like, these are the ties that bind us, and this is how there's all this horrible stuff that passes through generations. Only in this one, it has a very literal supernatural twist where in most families it's just going to be like, well, this is why we don't talk to Aunt Jerry anymore. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Right.
So they both have
Yeah.
so many strengths. I still think Hereditary is the better horror movie. It's a lot more rewatchable. I think the writing's a lot tighter. I think that Ari Aster is amazing, but maybe because of the success of Hereditary, he didn't get as much editing on Midsommar, so they were kind of like same George Lucas problem. George Lucas is an amazing storyteller. He's not always the strongest writer, so he needs a little bit of
Right.
pushback. Not that Midsommar was weak or like the Phantom Menace of his properties, but I don't think that it was as concise or well told. I think he got a little indulgent, a little self indulgent, in the characters and just the weirdness going on. But both beautiful movies. I'll wait to see the results of the poll.
I will, for this inaugural episode of Fright Fight, concede to your opinion.
Oh wow!
I think probably, yeah. No, Hereditary is probably the better movie,
Mhm.
but I still enjoyed Midsummer much, much more than I enjoyed Hereditary, which isn't to say that I didn't enjoy Hereditary,
Yeah.
but I think I just like it more. And maybe it's because folk horror, which is, we didn't even get into like the subgenres of each movie,
Yeah.
of which each has several, I feel.
Mhm.
Especially Midsummer or Hereditary. Hereditary has like 4 or 5 different subgenres that it kind of crosses into, but um folk horror is, I mentioned before, cults are like my favorite thing.
Mhm.
I want to be in one, I want to start one. Make more money as a leader, have more fun as a follower.
Exactly.
um
Exactly.
but like, yeah, I guess looking at it from the from on the levels that we looked at both the movies, Hereditary does come out on top,
Mm.
unfortunately, which so
But again, they're both amazing, and I'm glad you mentioned the folklore part because maybe that's what I think about Midsummer a lot. Not just so much for the movie, but just the mythology, and
yeah.
it feels to me like reading old school like Norse mythology. Neil Gaiman actually did a great collection about Norse mythology.
Oh, dude, called Norse
Yes,
mythology?
it's
Yeah, dude.
so good, and that's what I was kind of thinking about the whole time with Midsummer because a lot of actual classic mythology before it got cleaned up and sanitized for reading in high school, it's fucking dark. It's
Dude,
some
it's
sick
brutal.
shit, and that is what Midsummer felt like to me. Like Ari Aster was inventing his own mythology,
Hmm.
um, and then being told from this one point of view, and it's just like, yeah, and then that's where we started crushing them with the hammers to celebrate this, and then that's where he gets sewn in the bear suit after a bountiful harvest, and then we burn everything, and it's just like this is twisted, but it's familiar in that it draws from all these amazing sources of really ancient folklore and these
Yeah.
stories that have been passed around for thousands of years. So that's what sticks out to me with Midsummer. Um, Let me throw a curve at you before we have to get off. But out of the two, which would you rather see a sequel from, and what do you think that sequel would look like?
Oh, it's a good question. I think I would probably honestly have to go with Midsummer
Yeah.
because uh, like I'd like to see where Danny goes next. Like, she was the May Queen,
Mhm.
and I want to see what that all entails now. Like, does she stay with this cult now? Does she end up traveling back to wherever it was, back to America and going on with her life after having this just insane, once, hopefully only once in a lifetime experience? Or does she stay there and become a permanent member of the cult who will in 50 years jump off that cliff? Like, and yeah, I think I like to go with that, because with Hereditary, I don't really see where you could go with it other than, I guess, a demon walking the earth, which
Which is basically the issue with the Omen sequels because the Omen's an amazing
exactly.
movie, but then
Hmm.
Omen 2 and 3, and I think they made some TV movie once. It's kind of boring, I think, to see
Yeah.
his character Damien as he gets older and he's like, oh, I'm gonna get into politics and just. So I'm gonna agree with you. So I'm actually gonna concede this one in terms of sequel that I would rather see a Midsummer sequel. And actually, I've got a fan fiction pitch for you,
Oh,
Nick,
let's
right
go.
now.
Written by
So
Grand Theft Motto, everybody. Let's do this shit.
the sequel of Midsummer would, of course, be called Midwinter. It would
Oh,
follow Danny as she does come back to the U.S. from the cult, and she reconnects with some of her more distant friends, and it's a very tragic experience. There's all these unexplained, what happened to her friends, and she is acclimating herself back in, but she has not exactly come back to herself like as a person. She carries all those things with the cult. And so her friends decide to take her on a trip, and they're going to go maybe skiing and hiking in this isolated wilderness area. They get caught in a blizzard. They're in a cabin, and Danny slowly starts slipping back to where she was mentally at the end of Midsommar. And then the genre goes from not just the mythology exploration, but it becomes a bit of an Evil Dead movie where she is slowly losing her mind too. And my other addition would be either blatant supernatural elements in this area around the cabin in this blizzard, or potential ones. Like, it's stuff that could be like either magic, maybe mundane, all centered around Danny. Like, did she bring some of these spirits back with her from that country to here? And are there actual, like, you could do like the Wendigo, you could have all kinds of spooky shit in the blizzard, shadow people. So that would be the focus of it, where she is both a character, but she wouldn't be the main character. Maybe we'd have someone else fill that audience surrogate, and then she would sort of be the source of the horror while they're all trapped in this blizzard. And then, of course, midwinter.
I love that, dude. That sounds awesome. I would for sure watch that. Yeah, dude. And I mean, I am a sucker for winter horror movies,
Yes.
particularly when stuck in cabins.
Yeah,
There's so many of them, and they're all enjoyable. I mean, dude, The Thing.
I know.
I
Might
love
be
The
the
Thing.
best horror movie ever. That's when people ask me. That is one that comes up a lot.
It's definitely up there.
So good.
Yeah.
That one, the first Alien. I don't think it's a credit enough credit. It's just like how actually scary it
It's a
is.
straight up horror movie. Yeah.
Yep.
It falls more into the sci-fi in most people's minds, I think. But it is, yeah, dude. There's so many horror elements there.
Mhm.
But all right, I know you got to get onto this meeting here.
Gotta get popping.
So, as an outro, I guess I'm Nick Boddick. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at Nick Boddick. Pre-order Daughter's Drawings. It's gonna be awesome. It went up for pre-order a couple days ago. So give me money, give me money, give me money.
I know I'm gonna pre-order.
Appreciate it, man.
Yep. And I'm Travis Brown. You can find all my stuff at travisbrownwriting.com.
Perfect. I will see you next week for I'll text you, we'll figure out what we're gonna debate next week.
I know, and I'm excited. There's so many different. We could even do best Evil Dead movies, which is actually a tough one. It is a difficult one because I think an argument could be made. Two, probably the strongest. Army of Darkness, though, I would defend Army of Darkness against Evil Dead 2.
Okay.
In fact, I would defend the Evil Dead remake from like 2016 against Evil Dead 2, because I think that one got slept on. That was great.
I don't want to say anything. I'll text you about that because, dude, I have so many ideas with that. All right, I'll talk to you soon, brother.
All right, man. Have a good one.
You too. Later.